Welcome to Now and Forever, a series of 10-minute reflections on good news spirituality, sponsored by the Charles and Catherine Free Family Foundation, brought to you here from Watertown, New York, at Lady of Sacred Heart Parish. Good to be with you again, and with me again as usual, Pat Henry. Pat, how you going?
Excellent, Father.
Vicki.
Hi, Father.
Vicki Phillips. I get you know Pat and Vicki, so I won't have to explain that. We're in the process of doing reflections on family spirituality and family evangelization. And the reason for this is that family is really where it all happens. And if you don't, in the absence of family, you don't know what a relationship is. In fact, Vatican II said, I guess we mentioned that. Vatican II called the family the deeper school of humanity. It's where you learn how to be human. And if that doesn't include prayer and this kind of, reading the Bible sort of thing, well, there's something missing. So, Pat, let's start off with, why don't you do this first one? Is on perspective.
All right. Over the years, we have come to recognize the significance of perspective. The usual example given for what this means is about the difference between the optimist and the pessimist. The pessimist looks at a glass of water and thinks it's half empty. An optimist looks at the same glass and is delighted to find that it is at least half full.
I mentioned that I was on a panel, and it was in Washington, D.C. And they would ask us questions, and the questions they asked me was because I was in Papua New Guinea and I was dealing with the tribal people, and so if they had a question that was pertinent to me, I'd answer it. Well, somebody asked a question that I maybe thought I was giving good answers. I knew everything, but I said, now look, he asked a question that I really wasn't going to answer. So there was another guy there. He was a Methodist minister, I think. He was working in China, but he knew that the question was about India, and I don't know anything about India. So anyhow, I passed the question off to him, and he said something like this. He didn't say it these words, but he said, well, he says there's a realist and not a pessimist, but a realist and what's one of the guys ahead in the crowd? Idealist. Mm-hmm. And that's what he was saying. They said there's an idealist, his head in the cloud, realist, his feet are in the mud. And then he said, but there's another kind of person. And you know what that was? A visionary. There's a visionary, and they make the desert bloom. And it was a very good distinction, and when I looked at this, there's got to be more than that than just an optimist or pessimist. That just doesn't tell you a whole lot. So what? So that glass is half full, big deal. Hey, can you take that second sentence? Maybe they can help us out here.
This example doesn't begin to exhaust the meaning of perspective. It doesn't take into account, for example, whether the comparison takes place in a desert or in a kitchen with water on tap. In other words, what are the circumstances? The example also presupposes that both observers have the same personal level of need for water. However, when it comes to perspective, needs are seldom on a par. Furthermore, there is no consideration for the question of motive. Let's say one of the two wanted to drink the water, while the other wanted to share it with a family that had no water. The quantity becomes more of an issue.
Wow. Well, I said there is a lot to perspective. I guess there's a lot more than I was thinking about, because, if you need water in a desert, it's going to be more important whether it's half full or half empty.
Yeah, and when you can walk over to the kitchen sink and fill the glass up. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I guess quantity, because the motive is also important. The quantity then becomes more of an issue. Well, let's see. Okay, here we go. I'll do this one. What is this all about? In short, we shouldn't allow ourselves to be taken in by the labeling game. For example, what would people think if we began to read the Bible daily, or if we were to take up family prayer in the home? Well, they might think that we're going overboard on a religion kick. They might think we're trying to be holier than thou. They might just think that our TV is right. Or maybe they won't even think at all. What's that all about? Oh, perspective. You don't have to worry about what other people think about you. You're supposed to just think what's right and good and wrong.
What is right for you?
Yeah.
How you look at it.
The labeling game. Thinking about they don't want you just because you're, that's probably what it is. like before you're talking about these holier than thou people, and that they would give, if you were doing religion, you might be taken into that same group. But anyway, it probably shouldn't matter anyhow. I guess that's what it was trying to say there. Hey, let's do that final paragraph and we can talk about it, because that one doesn't tell us a whole lot.
In the final analysis, what they think should not be our concern. What is at issue is the spiritual, moral, emotional, and even the physical well-being of the family. That's a perspective that matters, the truth. There is no way to justify having a home without prayer, for that is to have a home without a soul.
Oh, that's pretty good. A home without prayer is a home without a soul. Getting back to this thing of perspective, I'm writing a, what do you call it, third booklet in a series. And when you talk about identity, okay, if you would, your identity. What's your identity? How's your identity? How do you come to a sense of identity? If you go to a shrink, he'll tell you it's about your addictions, your compulsions, your fixations, your complexes, your obsessions, and so forth. All the ego drives, okay? Now, if you go to a spiritual director, say, Pat, you come from your spiritual direction, all right? You know what I'm going to talk about? Not your ego drives. I'm going to talk about your relationships.
Oh, yes.
That's how you become the person you are, by how you relate to other people. If you treat them like dirt, well, you're going to be a dirt.
You're a doormat, yeah.
And that's really what perspective comes into play, that kind of thing, how you see people. And there's a story where they say, well, if psychologists tell you this is true, how you feel about others depends 98% on how you feel about yourself. So if you feel rotten about yourself, you're going to feel rotten about a lot of people.
But this
and that's perspective.
That correlates with love, though.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't love yourself,
then
then how are you going to love God? How are you going to love your wife? How are you going to love your children?
Yeah, you have to have respect. You have to love for yourself. But the perspective there, see, because now, when you talk about your identity, perspective is how you see things. And if you're seeing things like you're selfish or envious or jealous and all that sort of thing, you're going to have a hard time with your own identity, because you've just stamped yourself as this kind of a creature, that you're always out of your own self. You're worried about that person, this and everything else. It's terrible. But the other thing about your identity, and this is what I'm trying to write in that book, is that it depends on your purpose. Identity and purpose. Purpose and identity are pretty much of a muchness. If your purpose is to make a lot of money, well, then that's what you're going to be. That's your identity. If your purpose is that you want to have a good life and you want to be kind to others and you want to do things like that, then you're going to be good that way. So perspective, this is not quite. Why I say this is good, but it's not. I think they should have gone into that other thing about perspective and purpose.
Well, we have time. Go into it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, okay. We still have time. Okay,
yeah.
All right. So that now, what else goes into your identity? Your values, your principles, your truths, your priorities, your goals, all those, and the motivation behind it all, the why that you do anything. So then, when you put all those together, then that's the perspective you have to take. Your perspective on life. What is life all about?
Right.
And now your identity, the identity you come up is shaped from all those things. If you have no value base, well, you can't have any purpose or priorities. You just, it doesn't matter. And you have no way of orienting your life or really,
so when
becoming a person.
We put it on tonight's topic and the other couple topics for the last couple times. What we're trying to do is that perspective is to kind of like congeal it and make it happen right in our home first.
Yeah.
And that's the prayer.
Yeah.
That's the glue.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's solidarity.
That helps us, give us this one perspective. Mm-hmm. And it makes us not only a family unit, but a family unit with God within our own house. So this is how, we're talking about the holy ground, which we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So this is the holy ground that we're creating. That's
evangelization.
We're putting this all into perspective. This is the truth.
And that's what, that's good news spirituality.
Yeah.
God loves you. It's good news. I think we're out of time. Hey, thanks for listening. Come back again. We'll continue family evangelization. Take care. God bless.